to the Better Things Ahead podcast, where we take time to look at life's little journeys and think through how we can make other people's experiences better as they approach those same journeys. Today, we're continuing our conversation about education and how we as parents make decisions about where our kids go to school, what kind of education that'll be. And today, I am joined by Christy and Jeremy Bounds. They have been members here at Ridgecrest for quite a while. How long have y'all been members here?
22 years.
22 years. That's a long time. They have 5 kids, and they have gone through the journey of homeschooling. We've talked about, we're going to have people on that talk about public and private school. We also want to have somebody on that talks about homeschooling, because these are decisions that people have to make about where their kids go to school, what they, how they want to approach education. But first, I just want to hear a little bit about you guys. Where are y'all from? What was your schooling experience as you grew up? Those sorts of things.
Well, I grew up here. We haven't made it very far. I grew up in Ridgeland, right by First Baptist Ridgeland, and went to church there my whole childhood, and was a Madison County public school kid from first grade, because we didn't do kindergarten, then first grade all the way through 12th grade. Graduated from Madison Central back when there was only one high school in the whole county. And
which is crazy, because now we're talking about 4.
One elementary school. Like, everybody went to Ridgeland Elementary then, but everybody went there. So it's grown exponentially.
Yeah, absolutely.
Since I graduated. And then went to Mississippi College for undergrad and graduate school.
What did you study there? I'm just curious.
Elementary education.
Okay.
And then I got my master's also in education, but added specialties so that I could teach high school math and science.
Okay. Jeremy, what about you?
So I grew up in North Jackson, close to North Park. Went to Woodland Hills Baptist Academy, which no longer exists. I was actually the last class to graduate from there. Yeah, it was a dicey situation. Barely got out of there, but did get out of there. But I was there from K-5 all the way up through high school. I started at Southern Miss. I knew I wanted to do technology, and at the time, in the early 2000s, technology at a 4-year college was programming, which is, I knew that was not my thing.
Right.
Sitting at a desk coding was not something I wanted to do. So actually left there, got a technical degree from a college here in town called Virginia College. Got a job halfway through that, and then the rest is on-the-job experience.
Yeah. The rest is history, as I say.
The rest is history.
So tell me a little bit about your kids. Y'all have 2 in college, and then you have a middle schooler and a couple elementary kids. Yes. So tell us a little bit about that, and then after that, tell us a little bit about the decision to homeschool. And y'all also have 3 right now in a hybrid version of homeschooling. And so just kind of tell us a little bit about how we got there.
Okay, well, we have Riley, who is a junior and a half at Mississippi College. She'll be a senior after Christmas, which is crazy.
That is crazy.
But she is a biology major and plans on going to PA school for graduate school to be a physician's assistant. And Emmy is a freshman. She just started. And right now, you know how it is, freshman, this could change. But right now, her plan is to go to nursing school. And then Elliot is an 8th grader at St. Augustine. And then the twins are both 2nd graders at St. Augustine. And I will go ahead and say that, like, as far as decisions for school go, we always made those decisions together. But when it came to homeschooling, Jeremy kind of, I hate to say put it on me, but he knew I would be the primary teacher. He knew that the job of homeschooling would mostly fall on me. So when I approached him about possibly homeschooling, it was one of those things that he was like, if you ever, like, I'm not going to make that decision for you, basically. He's like, I'll support you in whatever decision you make, but he's like, I'm still going to go to work and come home. Like, I want to know that it's working for you. And so he never really, like, so I don't want to make it sound like he wasn't involved in the decision, but he also was like, I'm not the one who has to sit in here with our kids every day and try to teach. So, so he did kind of put that on me, but,
and we started in
public school.
Okay. I didn't realize that. Yeah.
Yeah. Riley went to public school till 5th grade and Emmy until 3rd.
Yeah.
And then Elliot had never been in a formal school situation until we started at St. Augustine.
Yeah.
But,
and I'll say we had a great experience at Madison Crossing.
Yeah.
Great teachers. One of our teachers came to, was it Emmy's?
She actually came to both of the girls' baptisms. Yeah.
Great support there. Had a great experience there. But
to the point that when we decided to homeschool, I made sure and contacted their teachers and let them know you did nothing that made us make this decision, because I didn't want them to feel like they had done something wrong or I felt like they were inadequate.
How hard was the decision to make the move? I mean, because like you both you had experienced public school growing up, you had experienced private school. So like homeschooling was not, it doesn't sound like it was in the background of your life.
And I'll say she is diehard public school. Like she was, she went to public school. She was like an advocate. She got her, a master's in English education.
Public school.
People would speak out against public school and she would be the first to say no. Like this is a good thing. So it was a hard decision. And I'd say it was a hard decision for myself because, history, there's been a stigma around homeschooling.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up.
There still is.
And I think
I think it's better than it was.
It's better, yeah. Well, and that was kind of my hold up is I didn't want to raise kids in a sheltered manner. I wanted them to be able to operate in society and be social and right. And it seemed like the homeschoolers I knew growing up, like they're socially they were not as mature as somebody that went to a traditional school.
Sure.
So, and I think Christy's reservations were more around, can she do it? Can she teach her kids and they be good citizens or be educated in a way?
Be prepared to take the next
step. Can they go to college
do,
and be successful?
Right. I didn't want me to be the reason.
That was 100% not my concern. If anybody is qualified to teach our kids, she is. She has her master's in elementary education. She's very, very qualified. So I think it took us a few years to make that decision.
It was always it was in the back burner for several years. So like really before we had kids and even when we didn't even really have a conversation once the kids were getting ready to start school. It was just like, no, we're going to public school. We live right down the street from an amazing public school. We live in a great district. We pay good money to live in this district. Our housing is more expensive and there was a reason we lived where we lived. And I had the principal at the time was a very respected professor of mine at Mississippi College that I had worked under, and Dr. D'Amico, and I loved her so much, and I was so excited that my kids were going to her school. Like it just felt so right, and it was right at the time. I didn't think we did anything. At the time, that was where they needed to be. But as my kids danced at Ballet Magnificat, and the cool thing about there was you had a little bit of everything. You had private school, you had public school, you had homeschool. And so I kind of got to talk to some other parents just about the things that they did and the things they were doing. And we did talk about it for a few years before we actually made the leap, because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything about the homeschool world. I didn't know how to make sure my kids could graduate from high school and get into college. I didn't know any of those things, and I didn't want to do anything that would be detrimental to them.
Sure.
But at the same time, as Riley was hitting 5th grade and her homework was ramping up, and she was just, I felt like we would get home, we would do all this homework. They didn't even do that many after school activities. They just did ballet, which at the time was only a day a week. And so I felt like, I was like, we are running a rat race. And for us, it was more of a family and busyness decision than it had anything to do with the actual quality of education or even the Christian values. Because like he said, we had, Brandy Winstead taught at our school. Kim Reed was there. We had all these people, even from church, that saw my kids every day and loved on them.
Yeah.
That was never a concern of ours. So it was more of a family decision. I wanted, when we came home, for them to be able to go outside and just play and not feel like we had to get right to the table to do homework. I wanted them, when their dad got home, to be able to like hang out with him instead of us hurrying and go. Because like if it was a night he worked late, we just stayed up a little later and slept in the next morning and started school a little later the next day. So those were our reasons. And it's not for everybody. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people that, I don't think that they're making less time for their family or anything like that. Our friend Matt and Mandy Calvert, Mandy used to joke about all of our friends were stay-at-home moms and she was not. And she was like, I'm a better mom because I work. And I was like, and you know that about yourself. And I think that's important. Like, so I feel like all family, I just want to go on the record right now as saying that like all these parenting decisions, I feel like everybody is doing what's best for their family. And that's what we had to do, was sit back and go, even though I feel like some people are going to laugh at us, even though I'm kind of eating crow because I've always been such a staunch supporter of public education, I feel like this is what is best for our family right now. And we even said it could change. Like, we would reevaluate at the end of the year and be like, what worked, what didn't work.
Yeah.
What different kids need different situations. Some kids thrive in that situation. Some kids need to be somewhere else. They might need a full-time schooling situation. So we knew we weren't so stubborn about it that we're like, this is what we're going to do, you know, and this is what every kid is going to do.
Well, in fact, every year we ask our kids, you know, do you want to continue doing this, or do you want to do something different? What's not working? What is working?
I want them to know we weren't doing it to them.
Yeah.
Yeah, with them.
Yeah, I wanted them to not. I wanted them to have a say, especially as I got older.
Yeah,
to have a say in that decision, and it did not come without stress and guilt on my part, because I would see pictures of pep rallies, and I'd be like, "You don't have pep rallies? Like, are you mad about that?" And they're like, "We don't care." And I'm like, "Do you really not care?" You tell me that, and they're like, "Well, yes, they look fun." But then we have this, like, we're able to work during the day and do some, like, get a job where we want to get a job, and then balance our school with that. And we're able to come home and take a nap, or, you know, there were things they could do and work their schedule with it being more flexible, that we could travel more as a family. So things like that, they were like, it's pro and con. Like, you have to give some.
Well, that was going to be one of my questions for y'all, is like, what were some of the things, I'm going to ask both sides of the question. What were some of the things that you looked at and you were like, these are definite pros of us making this decision? And then what were some of the drawbacks, what challenges of it? I mean, because I'm sure there are some.
For sure.
And so I'm curious to hear, you know, from your perspective, these are the good things that we saw as we began to do this. And then these are the things that we saw that were real challenges, but we worked through them.
Well, for me, one of the pros for sure was just flexibility. But then also with that came the con of accountability and making sure that, you know, we didn't take too many days off, or we didn't get too lazy with our schedule.
I will say, I remember my sister saying something similar to me, because my sister homeschooled while they were here. They homeschooled, and they said that Mississippi's laws were pretty lax.
Very relaxed, which is good if you, like, because you can do what you want to do, but then on the same hand, you can do what you want to do. And there's not a lot of accountability there at all. And I think that gives homeschool kids in Mississippi even more of a stigma.
Sure.
And I was going to say that was one of my cons, is when for my kids, when they like tell people like, oh, where'd you graduate from high school? They're like, oh, I was homeschooled. And they always get this, and then nothing. And it's like, they're like, okay, I know. Matter of fact, Riley and Emmy both said they were jealous that Elliot, when he goes to college, they're going to be, where'd you go to school? And he can go St. Augustine School. And nobody's going to really ask him any questions.
Yeah.
But they get looks. They're like, oh, your parents gave you your grades, you know, and I feel like we do a lot of explaining of ourselves. And that's definitely a con, is I feel like I'm always having to go, no, like, she took pre-calculus from an adjunct professor at Belhaven.
Yeah.
I did not give her an A. She earned an A.
Right.
And I feel like I do a lot of no, we're not antisocial. We're in sports. We have a whole group of and they're like, oh, but they're homeschool sports. I'm like, no, we compete against local private and public schools. Like our cross country team ran with Madison Central. Like we're a legit sports team. And so I felt like we were always having to just kind of justify everything we did. Whereas anybody that went to private or public school, I didn't feel like they had to stand up for themselves. And that was definitely something that was hard and something I'm kind of glad I don't have to do anymore. Like,
I'll say, so Riley recently, I think she was telling somebody that she was homeschooled, and they were like, "Oh, I wouldn't have known that." That's a huge compliment.
I was like, that's kind of a compliment. I don't want anybody to go, yeah, we knew. We could tell.
Oh, that makes sense.
Always wondered.
That makes
checks
so
out.
much sense now. Yeah. So yes, that was definitely, those things are definitely cons, but for sure the pros were the amount of time my kids got to spend with each other as siblings and how close they were. The twins were little when Emmy was like, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. She was there. She was able to hold them and take care of them.
Yeah.
And she's very close with them. And again, I'm not saying you can't be that way if you go to school, but I think there were just more opportunities for them to have that time to spend time with each other.
Yeah.
They had the opportunity to work a job that maybe they could work in the early afternoon and not have to work into the evenings and that kind of stuff. Like there was more flexibility in that. And then with their classes, there was more of a flexibility of I can lean towards more things that I'm more interested in, instead of having to do a set curriculum that was set out for me. I mean, they still had to take, biology and chemistry and those kinds of things. But I will say another con is not that there's a limit for socialization, but it's kind of like going to a big school versus a small school. Like in a big school, you have a big pool of people to choose from where you can find your friends in that group. We had a kind of a smaller pool of friends to choose from, which worked great for Emmy because she's more of a relational, like she's going to have 2 or 3 close friends and they're going to be tight.
Yeah.
Whereas Riley's more social and likes having like a lot of people to do stuff with. So it was having that smaller pool of people to choose from on the daily. They had church friends, they had ballet friends, but when it came just to school, the people they went to classes with and that kind of stuff, it was just a really small group.
So I'm curious it's not really a technical question, but it is a question that I think parents that make the decision to homeschool kind of have to think through. So it's a question for both of you. Jeremy, on your part, what was it like to figure out how to support Christy and the kids as they kind of walk through the homeschool? Because you weren't as involved in necessarily the day-to-day of the actual schooling. And then for Christy, tell me how you worked out the I'm mom, but I'm also teacher. Because that's a that was one of the things I always was a little worried about. If I had stayed in the public school world, my kids at some point could have potentially had me as a teacher. And like, what is that dynamic going to look like? What is it going to look like at home? What will kids say to them if, I'm their teacher? Will they say that, and they make good grades? Will they just accuse me of giving them great, you mentioned already? Yeah. So Jeremy, how did you support? And then Christy, what was kind of how did you work out the line between mom, teacher, all that worked out?
Sure. So I think me as an encourager for her, I mean, like I said before, she always had this doubt in her mind that she couldn't do it, and just trying to encourage her, saying, "No, you got this."
Yeah.
I mean, having kids at home all day and teaching them, and they living with you is a challenge, right? I mean, even today, there's 3 days a week that she teaches our twins, and they can be a challenge, and.
They do have a little energy.
They are all boy.
Yeah. So, but it's, just encouraging her to say, you're doing a great job.
Yeah.
Just stick with it. Or try to, I come down at lunch. I work at home. So I come down at lunch and I just try to help.
Yeah. He'll be
corral
right.
the guys and get them back focused. And, of course, boys are different, right? They're that testosterone kind of is peaking, and they want to challenge her a lot of times. So to be that male figure to try to step in and go, you need to get back in line.
That's right.
Listen to your mom anyway.
Listen to your mama.
Don't disrespect your mama. That has been like a huge help. The fact that he is working from home now, like, because after COVID and on, he's been at home. So he does come down at lunch. So if I need like a break, I'll be like, I'm going to go upstairs and like, put my makeup on or whatever. And he's like, I got it. And like, he can like feed him lunch or rein him in or whatever he needs to do. And that's been a huge help as far as supporting me for sure. As far as making the kind of transitioning roles, I feel like, yes, that's a challenge, but at the same time, as moms, we are teachers so much, maybe not in a structured academic way, but we do that anyway from day to day with everything that we do, from teach them how to load a dishwasher to how to make their bed or brush their teeth. And so it's more of I often had conversations with them about, if you were in a classroom, when you go to Sunday school, and do you just like yell out things at your teacher, or do you, and they'd be like, well, no. And I'm like, well, right now I'm your teacher and I need you to kind of treat me as such. Like, don't just treat me just like mom and I need this, and just get up and leave the table and those kinds of things. I would try to tell them, this is our classroom and this is what we have to do. Like right now, we'll do that later, and, I did send like Elliot went to something called the Friday program every Friday from first grade on. So he did have some classroom experience. And of course he had some at church too. So he kind of knew how to structure himself in a classroom, which helped. And the girls, of course, haven't been in public school, knew I wouldn't get up and sharpen my pencil while the teacher was talking. That's not something you would do. And so they that helped them kind of know how to act when we were together. The reason we actually started at St. Augustine was that the twins kind of are a different animal, and there being two of them and them kind of feeding off each other. Sure. And I told Jeremy, I came upstairs at the end of the first week of kindergarten with them at home, and I was like, I'm too old to do this for the next 12 years. And so I was like, I think we need to, and we had often looked at St. Augustine as an option, but the girls were never interested. We would talk to them about that, and they're like, we don't want to jump in there as like a ninth grader. And Elliot didn't want to leave Friday program. Yeah. And so when Friday program ended in sixth grade and the twins were starting first grade, so Elliot would have been starting in seventh grade, which is the upper school there. It just kind of was an easy transition for us. But it was because I felt like the twins needed a little more structure than what I could offer at home, and that I needed a little bit more support than I was doing it all on my own. Sure. And so it's definitely a challenge. I feel like it has to be a calling. You have to feel like this is where the Lord is leading you. I feel like any mom honestly can do it, whether I know he's like, well, she's got an education and she taught kids. I don't want to discourage any mom who feels like they can homeschool their kids or feels called to homeschool their kids from actually doing that, because I feel like there's so many tools and resources out there now for homeschoolers that it's not like you're it. Like this, it's you or nothing. And it's not really that way anymore. My girls took all their high school credit classes somewhere else with real qualified teachers that maybe taught somewhere else and were doing this to make extra money on the side, or maybe were retired teachers, or were doing the same thing as me. They were homeschooling their kids and they were teachers and they needed to make some money. So there's so many different things out there now to support you as a teacher that it makes it a little bit easier. But back to your question though, like, it really was just, I just kind of had to tell, we're very open and honest with our kids. Like, we're talking about being sheltered. We try not to really shelter them either. Like, we try to be very honest about things. And so this is just one of those situations where I was honest with them. I was like, if this doesn't work, we have to go back to school. If that's what you want, that's fine. But I'm not going to sit here and fight you every day. That doesn't make for a healthy environment. Sure. That's not what we're working towards. And So I would just be honest with them, even when they were younger, and be like, if you can't do your work and do what I ask of you, we're going to have to go somewhere where you will.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to sound like a threat, but I was just being honest with them that, like, I can't sit here and let you suffer and not learn something.
That's right. Yeah.
So just because you won't listen to me. So we would have to find another option.
Yeah. So a technical question. I'm curious now, because you were talking about the resources that are available. If somebody's starting this journey and trying to figure out, like, how do I do this? I don't necessarily have an education degree. I'm trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. How would you tell them to kind of work through the resources that are out there? Because the internet makes everything available to everybody, and it all looks the same. So it all looks like it's good. It all looks like it works. There's going to be people that advocate for it. Like, how did you figure out, okay, this is what we need to be doing as opposed to something else?
Well, mine was mainly through relationships, through other people that were ahead of me. Like one of actually Emmy's roommate, Sophie Swan, her mom, Kim, and I were friends from ballet. And Kim has an older child who's a little bit older than Riley. And so she was my one that I would ask a lot of questions to. Somebody I respected her opinion. I felt like we were kind of on the same page. And so I would be like, okay, how do I make a transcript? How do I make sure all these things line up? How do I make sure she gets these classes? How do I find curriculum? She was somebody, and it ended up that relationship led to others.
Sure.
But I feel like finding someone that you trust that maybe has done it or is in the throes of it.
And there's several co-ops around town.
Right.
Yeah, I was going to bring them up. I've heard good things about how co-ops work. They kind of function as little schools. The primary teaching load falls on the parent, but the co-ops kind of are there to support one another.
Right.
And there's different flavors of them. Some of them are
some of them are moms teaching kids, like moms that just trade off on subjects they know about.
Sure.
Some of them, like what we did was not technically a co-op, but where you're paying other parents to teach.
Right, because I think the idea of a co-op is your other parents teach your kids, but you don't pay anything.
A true co-op would be like,
you're all just trading
skills.
Trading skills. Trading skills.
And one of our friends, they go to Broadmoor, but Jennifer and Preston Crow, they run Impact, which is the true co-op where the parents show up and just like, I'm good at this, you're good at this. Okay, well, you teach mine biology, I'm going to teach yours English. And that works for some people. We never really got involved completely in any true organization. We just kind of took bits and pieces of what worked for us. I felt like we had so much socialization with church and ballet and then sports that we didn't really need another thing. So we opted for a place where you went and paid for a class instead of like a true co-op because I didn't need the community necessarily as much as I needed somebody to have a biology lab where they got to dissect a frog, and that wasn't what I was going to do, so so that was, but there are co-ops. There's Czech, it's the Christian homeschoolers. That's actually where our girls graduated through. Like they have a graduation ceremony, cap, gown, like full thing, so that I didn't want my girls to not get recognized for graduating from high school. And the degree still has like our name on it because it's technically not through Czech, but they host things like that. They host dances. Riley and Amy went to prom. They had a prom. So there's that. That's one way you can get involved, but it's one of those things you can get involved as much as you want or as little as you want. And I will say that St. Augustine will tell you they are not a homeschool program. They are a private school. We are members of MAIS. And they are really what's called a collaborative school. So they do come home, and I am in charge of their education, but I don't choose their curriculum. So I just, if I said, well, we're still homeschoolers, people like Ann Lowry Forster would be like, no, you're not. We are a private school. So, but anyway, there are so many more alternatives now and so many things you can look into. And I know there's an overwhelming amount of stuff on the internet, but definitely just look into different situations, talk to people that go or maybe involved in those things. I found that most homeschool people are more than happy to tell you why they do what they do.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can find what fits your family best.
Yeah. All right. So that what you just said there kind of, I think, is one more thing that I want to talk about with you guys. So I'll be honest, the place that we were when our kids were born, when we lived in North Carolina, it was a good situation as far as like, it's very similar to Madison, good public schools, good private schools. We had lots of options. Our life group was made up of seminary people for the most part, guys who were in training to become pastors, a lot of wives who were going to be stay-at-home moms, and their plan was to homeschool their kids, and they kind of looked sideways at people who were like, you're sending your kid to a public school? You're going to send your kid to a public school? You do realize they're going to indoctrinate them and like turn them into a bunch of atheists. And like, anyways, it was almost like fear was the leading factor that led people toward homeschool. So it was like they evangelized for homeschool as much as they evangelized for Jesus. And I'm curious to hear, like, what would you say to a parent who's like trying to make a decision about homeschooling, and maybe they're saying like, the thing that I'm most worried about is I don't want the public school to disciple my kid. Like, how would you respond to them?
Do you want to take that one or me?
Go ahead.
You know, I have a lot to say about this.
Yeah.
Well, being a public school kid, I will very much tell you that I was not indoctrinated ever.
Yep.
I honestly was still very sheltered. My parents probably sheltered me more than I've sheltered my own kids. There are a lot of things I didn't know about going into college that I did find out about later. And so...
Well, and I'll say, for me, going to a private school, a Baptist private school was probably one of the most... It was a Christian school, but it was very secular.
Yeah.
Like, it was not the epitome of just...
I knew more people that did drugs at his school than I did at my own school.
Yeah, it was bad joke. Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like...
Well, in the end years of Woodland Hills, I mean, they were trying to get anybody there they could. So
right.
They were
try to stay open.
They were accepting anybody. So,
sure.
I mean...
Yeah. Yep.
Just because somebody's going to...
a Christian private school, it doesn't always mean anything. So I was not indoctrinated. I always was one to speak up and say, first of all, I don't believe, and I know y'all feel the same way, I don't believe it's a school's job to raise my children spiritually. Right. And I want Jeremy and I to be their primary source of information for religion and theology, but also mentors, you know. But I felt like at public school, there were plenty of opportunities if you wanted to increase your faith. There's FCA. There's always like campus life, student life. There are ways, you know, your kid can find those ways there, and they can make those friends, and they can even have those teachers who are mentors in a good way there, as well as private school. It's there, and I know all schools don't necessarily have the troubles that you had, but there are gonna be families at any school that you may not line up with completely. And then as far as homeschooling goes, like, we were able to have a little more input, but I'm gonna be honest, there were times that it was hard because I felt like math has to be done. Yeah. And if we miss, you know, our devotion this morning, you know, like, I would be like, we got to get math and reading finished. You've got to learn how to read. And the stress of that sometimes would overshadow the amount of time we spent doing Bible, and a lot of that falling directly on me or us, like, sometimes it was a little overwhelming. Even though it's a good thing to do it, it still would be like, oh my gosh, like, if I don't include this, like, are we really homeschooling our kids if we don't have our Bible class? And I don't know, like, I felt like there was extra pressure to be more Christian in our education. And that, again, was not why we pulled out and homeschooled. Matter of fact, I had a hard time finding curriculum sometimes because I would feel like there were so many homeschool curriculums that were watered down academically because they were I don't sound like such, like, I don't
They were trying to over spiritualize the curriculum.
Yes, they were over spiritualizing everything. Like, I remember trying to find math books and being like, I just want a Prentice Hall or an HBJ textbook to teach my children some algebra. Like, I didn't necessarily need to have a full spiritual experience every time we opened our math book.
Yeah.
And science was the same way. And reading, I was like, I don't only want to read Spurgeon. Like, let's read some other great authors. You know, there are other things out there that are good, new and old, you know, new authors. And so that part was hard for me, because it was like, how do I find the balance of, you know, I guess there was pressure. We were the homeschool family. I felt like I needed to include a lot of that. I feel like I didn't really answer your question.
No, I think you did.
But I would say to homeschool parents, don't count on that. I mean, like, we don't count on the homeschooling to save your kids and make them spiritual, moral people. Because I can tell you, looking around our homeschool community, that there are several kids who have strayed. And I think that's just life in this world. Like, I don't think you can completely shelter or do anything perfectly. Satan's still out there, no matter where you go to school.
Regardless, you have to teach your kids to live in the world. You cannot shelter them.
Yeah.
And I think as homeschool parents, sometimes they want to do that. And I think there's probably some that want to shelter the kids, and I don't think that's healthy at all. I think there's a benefit that they are with us more, so we have the opportunity that when situations do come up that's a little controversial, or, you know, you can handle them. You're there to handle it, not a peer.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, we have a friend at St. Augustine who they left St. Augustine for a little while, then went to a full-time school, and then came back. And that was one thing she said that she missed, was those days sitting at the counter. Like Elliot has to do, oh my gosh, the word's escaping me. Not apologetics, but anyway, worldview.
Yeah, worldview stuff, yep.
So he has a worldview assignment, and like part of it is they give him the assignment, and it's like, go talk to your parents about this. And so he comes to us with these questions, and we talk about where we stand, and the assignment gives him scripture that to point him in, you know, what the Bible says, and then we kind of talk about it. And so I'm thankful that we have those moments with our kids, because as a parent, you want to have that, but you get busy. And so every week I'm not going to sit down and be like, all right, well, here's this worldview on this. How do you feel about it? It may come up organically in conversation, but it's not always. So it's nice to be able to either know that I am the one, that we're the ones telling them about some things and how we believe, or that there are trusted adults that have similar viewpoints. Like at school, we know they're on the same page.
Yep.
So
For sure. Well, I really appreciate y'all's insight and time today. It's been a good conversation, and the thing that I would share with you guys that have been listening and I've shared throughout this series is, when you make decisions like this, don't make these decisions out of fear. Make them because you feel called to them. Make them knowing that you are the primary discipler of your children, and be intentional about the things you do with your kids when it comes to their education, whether it's homeschool, private school, or public school. Be willing to step into parenting intentionally so that you have a voice in your child's life as long as possible, because they're going to look at you and listen to you and see if there's an integrity to your faith. And that's true whether you're with them every single day, you know, all the time, or whether you get them after school and they see what life looks like after school with you. And so thank you guys for your time. And I hope this has helped you guys that are listening make better decisions about your kids' education. And we look forward to seeing you next time.